The new iPhone 16 is here and people are loving the new design, but how much better is it compared to the iPhone 15s? And should you just save some money and buy this older one? Well, today we're gonna compare everything from the design, we're gonna compare the speakers and every single little update that they changed. Now, right away with the box, you see that new color and look at that. It is even brighter, pops even more than what's on the box. We have our little charging cable, which is actually the same, but I have to say,
wow, that's beautiful.
This is a beautiful color. That's why people are liking it. Now, the camera bump is really different, and I have to be honest, at first, I didn't like it in the leaks, but looking at it now, it actually looks pretty good, nice and big. Now, of course, the cameras have been updated. We'll talk about that in just a second, but I like that Apple embraced these bold colors compared to all the muted ones before. Let's go ahead and peel this back. And the first thing I noticed is that action button. We did not have that before on the 15s, only the Pro phones got it. And so instead of that physical little switch, we have that customizable button. Now, we had that on those 15s, and I will say it took me a while to get used to it, but now I use it to open up my Tesla frunk, so it is convenient. People have done tons of shortcuts with them. And on the other side, we got another button. Instead of the 5G antenna, we have that new camera control. Now, I just started trying it out on my Pro phone, but in Apple's event, it looks really, really cool. Now, looking at the displays, they look identical, and both still have 60 hertz refresh rate, which kind of sucks. The peak brightness is still the same, but it is great, but the new phone does get slightly dimmer in low light situations. Now, one thing you can't visually see is that the 16 has the brand new ceramic shield that is stronger than any other glass, and people have done drop tests and have noticed that it's a lot more crack resistant, so that is great. But other than that, everything else on the front is the same. Now, what I'm curious about are the speakers. Let's go ahead and take a listen to see if they are any better. Now, I'm not sure if you guys heard any difference, but I did. Vocals stand out a little bit more. The mids sound a little bit more rich, but it's not a massive update. We know they made a similar change with the Pro phones as well, so it is a little bit of an improvement. Now, flipping these over to the back, I wanna talk about MagSafe because we finally get faster MagSafe wireless charging, 25 watts compared to 15. Now, unfortunately, only this puck supports it for now, but they're giving us some longer options, which is nice. So you can now charge this phone as fast as you previously could wired wirelessly. Now, if we take a look at the bottom, both of these do have USB Type-C. Unfortunately, both are still slow USB 2.0, but the batteries have gotten larger and wire charging has also been improved. Now, if you have the iPhone 16, you know that you can now charge at 45 watts, but Apple doesn't include a charging brick in the box. But Ugreen has you covered with their new Uno charger with 100 watts of fast charging with a really fun and unique groovy robot design that has a cute little face that shows you when the iPhone is fully charged. You can charge 4 devices at once with 3 USB Type-C ports and 1 USB-A port for legacy devices, and the USB-C 1 and 2 ports can fast charge the new MacBook Pros. Ugreen also has their Uno 15-watt Qi 2 wireless charger that can charge 3 devices at once, like the new iPhone 16 Pro Max, AirPods Pro 2 with wireless charging, and an Apple Watch. So definitely check out these new fast and fun charging accessories from Ugreen, and I'll have the links in the description and pinned comments below. And now let's get into performance. As you guys can see, we went from the A16 all the way to the A18 now, and 6 gigs compared to 8 gigs of RAM. I'm gonna start this CPU benchmark in Geekbench 6 and let you guys know about Apple Intelligence. Now, when this phone launched, it is not out yet, at least officially. Now, Apple made a huge deal about this, and it is quite cool. We've tested out the beta, and I think that's a huge reason to get the iPhone 16 because you have summaries, you have Genmojis, you have different text tools. Siri is so much smarter. So if you're gonna have this phone for a while, I mean, those are real world usability improvements. And look at these scores. The single core is insane on the new iPhone 16. That's over 27% faster, higher score for single core and about 23% in multi-core. Of course, we're going from a 5/4 nanometer down to second gen 3 nanometers. So that is a huge jump, big jump in efficiency as well. And next, I wanna go ahead and test out the graphics performance. And here we go, we have a score of 27,978. Now the crazy thing is, this is pretty much matching the 15 Pro Max's graphics while having one core less. And that is a killer number for graphics performance. Now, next thing I wanna test out is 3D Mark, and I wanna start out with this Solar Bay test, which uses ray tracing. And right away, I could see a smoothness difference just by looking at this game being rendered. And here are the scores, and there's two things that blow my mind. First off, we have a score of 7163 compared to 4200, 70% higher frame rate. So that is a huge jump if you wanna play these new ray tracing games. And the second thing is, look at this battery percentage difference. The 16 went from 95% battery down to 90, lost 5% battery. This one from 95 to 95. Didn't even use a full percentage because of those dedicated ray tracing cores that are making it easier with less heat and less power. That is insane. Now the next thing I wanted to test is thermal throttling, where your phone slows down, starts overheating. But on the iPhone 16, I can't even run the new Steel Nomad Lite, probably because it has 6 gigs of RAM. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the Wildlife Extreme stress test here on both of them. And that just proves a big point. If you're into games or you wanna play the newest games coming out, well, you're gonna be limited on the iPhone 15, whereas the 16, now it's matching the specs of the Pro phones. And with the test completed, look how much more the iPhone 15 dimmed its screen because of overheating compared to the iPhone 16. That right there is a huge deal. Apple said the thermals have been improved up to 30%. That means if you're doing gaming sessions or you're outside in the heat and the sun, the screen's gonna stay brighter. That's awesome. And then looking at the final scores here, now that the phones are cooled down, I thought the difference would be larger as far as the throttling performance, but if we look at the peak score here, we have a difference of 35%. That is actually huge. Typically, generation to generation, we have 15, 20% improvement. This is 35%. That's crazy. Like I said, this is similar gaming to a 15 Pro Max. Now, if we look at the stability over here, we have 78% compared to 75%. That actually means that the iPhone 16 loses about 25% of its performance once it's throttled down, once it slows down if you've been gaming for a long time. The iPhone 15 lost less percentage of its performance. Now it has a lot less performance, that might be why, but overall, especially looking at that screen dimming, I would say this is a massive improvement for gaming. And now let's talk about these massive cameras and let's compare them. Now, the first thing I want to touch on is that capture button. I've been using it over the weekend on the Pro phone, and I'll say there are times where it's convenient. Right there, I pressed and it launched the camera. The screen could be off. You could be pulling it out of your pocket. You press it down, bam, you could take another picture. So that part of it is nice. I especially like it for taking selfies. Let's see Vadim in the shot over there, where you can hold it horizontally like this, grab a photo. That's pretty nice as long as it doesn't shake too much. But as far as these controls, if you press down halfway, you can go through, you have a lot of these different controls. Honestly, so far I have not been loving it. It just takes too long to go through all those menus and optimize compared to just using the screen. Now, of course, it's only been a few days. We'll see in our full review my experience with it, just using it a little bit more, but it is cool to have that extra button there where that 5G antenna used to be. Now, let's talk about the cameras themselves. I took a bunch of images and this is a selfie shot. And I want to say that the hardware has not changed at all. They both actually still use the same Smart HDR5. The picture does look a little different in terms of processing. The 16 16 photo is a little brighter, but if we're just looking at pure detail, I mean, it is very similar. The biggest difference actually comes with the ultra wide. Now you have macro mode. So look at that. This is the closest that I actually can take a picture with iPhone 15. Here's a 16 for you. It could get even closer, and that is amazing. Of course, you could crop in, zoom in, but then look at that quality difference comparing the ultra wide and macro mode. That is really, really cool. It's also useful for documents, things like that. And here's a shot with the macro mode, whereas on the 15, you have to just zoom in to take a picture like that. I mean, it looks so much better. The colors, the sharpness, the contrast. Having that macro mode is really, really cool. Now, along with that, the ultra wide is just better as well. This is kind of lower lighting photo. This one's brighter, the colors are better. And then if we go ahead and zoom in and look, we have a lot less noise, better detail. I mean, that's a good upgrade to the ultra wide camera. Now here's a photo with the main lens in 2x portrait mode. I mean, the photo on the 16 is a little bit warmer, but if we take a look at the detail, I mean, it is very, very similar. The 16 now has the same camera from the 15 Pro Max, and last year, the detail was very similar because both are 48 megapixel images. Now, this is zooming in all the way to see if it helped out with that new camera. And the crazy thing is, if you look, well, the 16 took a photo of that text better. There's a lot of sharpening here, but then the pharmacy right here is messed up. And then if we look at the trees over here, the 16s looks better. So at this point, it's just software. The hardware isn't much different. And this is a low light shot with the main camera. And I mean, they are so close. Honestly, I don't think that main 48 megapixel camera is much of an improvement. Of course, same thing with the selfies. So it's mostly just that ultra wide seeing a big improvement. So is the iPhone 16 a good upgrade, and should you buy one of these instead of getting a 15 for less money? Well, in one way, it seems like not that much has changed, but then this actually seems more like a Pro phone in a regular body, because this year they really worked on a lot of usability features. Of course, we got the action button, which is nice. We got the camera control button, which is nice. You have less screen dimming. You have that macro lens, which helps for scanning documents and getting closer to subjects. And of course, we now have the A18, which is a massive jump, the biggest we've ever seen in a regular iPhone. So you have performance of an iPhone 15 Pro Max, you have 8 gigs of RAM, you have the whole Apple Intelligence, and now you have the cameras from the iPhone 15 Pro Max, other than the zoom camera, all in this small phone that's lightweight and for $799. So Apple packed in the charging, the new MagSafe, all these Pro-like features into this phone. So if you don't need ProMotion or that zoom lens, this thing is a steal of a deal. I think they did a little bit too much as far as the Pro features. So that makes it a great value. So if you're thinking about saving money and getting a 15, do not do it. You want that 8 gigs of RAM and the future proofing that it's bringing. So I think this is a good upgrade. I like the new colors, and I think this is gonna sell really well. It might even be a better update than the Pro line phones this year. So you guys let me know what you think down below. Click that circle above to subscribe and check out one of those videos right over there. This has been Max, and I'll see you in the next one.